everyone. Welcome to the show, the number one of a doubleheader. Actually, I don't know if my second doubleheader is happening because Guy hasn't got back to me. But interesting. This is the second time I've tried to schedule with Monero Magazine, and I would like to talk about Monero with them because, again, cross-discipline, trying to talk to other communities, not here to shill their coins or anything, but it would be nice to just, especially Monero. It's Monero, right? I'll talk to a Bitcoin guy, I'll talk to an Ethereum guy, talk to a Monero guy. But anyways, hopefully, everything. Hopefully, you're able to make the stream. If not, I'm going to do a what I did while I was on vacation stream. So I have a lot to talk about, and I haven't debriefed at all on stream about that. So if the 7 o'clock Pacific stream doesn't happen today with him, I plan to do a solo stream about that. So should be good either way. Got some banging content coming for you, and I just need to talk about some of the stuff I did while I was on vacation, and it's funny. Like that's the point. I was on vacation from streaming, and I was at a different location, but I still worked very, very hard on a lot of content, a lot of cool stuff. So I'll share more about that. But today, at least the right now imminent launch of Ben Kayge. I didn't ask him how to say his last name. I think it's Kayge. It looks like Kayge to me. We're going to get to the bottom of that here in a minute, but he is joining me on the channel today, and we got a pretty good stuff to talk about. He's been on a few different streams lately. A lot of the streamers and HEX and PulseChain have been trying to support people who put out a lot of valuable content, and Ben has been putting out a ton of different videos talking about a lot of different topics around PulseChain, around HEX, and just being bullish on this ecosystem in general. So we're going to get into a lot of cool stuff with him. Talk about the liquidity squeeze stuff going on. I got some tweets I'm going to pull up, and some of the stuff that Ben's talked about that as well. And yeah, PulseChain, PulseX. We're going to keep it AMA as usual. Drop your questions or comments in the chat, and I will get to them as I can, unless we get 150 people in here, and then like all bets are off. It happens more than you think. So anyways, without further ado, let's bring him in. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Hey, and just so you know, it's Kayge. Weird spelling. I get it.
Kayge. Okay, Kayge. That makes more sense. I'm staring at it now. Yes, that makes sense. Kayge. I was like Kayge.
I know it is a weird spelling, but
Ben, yeah. You on your channel too. You said I was thinking about it because I was looking at it today. What is it? What is the theme of your channel?
A bit of wordplay there, yeah. Just trying to build a community kind of name and brand, if you will. And I thought that Uncaged was representative of kind of the ethos of my channel. So a little bit of nameplay there, wordplay. But
I was like, how can I do a meme of Ben Unchained, like Django Unchained? And there's a wordplay. That's not easy to pronounce either. You look at it, you're like, is it Django? Is it DJ?
Yeah.
There you go. There's some correlation between Django Unchained and Ben. Kayge. Now I got to stop saying Kayge. Stop being Kayge.
Yep.
Kayge. Do it, Max. Kayge. Slow and steady. Yes. Anyways, man, I just want to bring that up because I thought it's funny. But yeah, let's. I was watching you on Coffee Stream the other day, and I don't know much about you. I was telling you in the green room. I'm interested in your intro. Can you just walk us through? How'd you get into crypto? How'd you find Richard? How'd you start streaming? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is more so from traditional finance. So I was a trader for years back in the UK, in London. I was working at Goldman Sachs. I also did a stint at Merrill Lynch. So pretty much the larger institutions is kind of formed the basis of my curriculum, if you will. Then I kind of made the shift over to the VC space. Tends to be a natural thing for a lot of finance guys, a lot of traders to gravitate to. And I know I've touched on this in other streams, but for anyone who isn't so aware of my background, I focused, within that VC realm, more so in the tech space. It was around the time that software as a service started coming to fruition. And so a lot of the sales forces of the world were kind of, and still are, I guess, used and were top of mind. And so my function and the group that I was working with, we'd be looking for a lot of these tech companies that we thought had a lot of potential. We kind of analyzed them much the same as you'd analyze a stock or a crypto, and look to either expand their footprint or buy them, acquire them, whatever it may be. And so for me, crypto was really a natural progression from that. I think that, I've always been pretty active in the crypto space, even, right from inception almost. I wasn't one of the OGs into Bitcoin, unfortunately. But I was pretty early into Ethereum. Again, much like many people, I sold early. I don't think we had the litmus test or the data points to really accurately call what was going to happen at that point. So I'm not going to feel too guilty. But I did.
When you say early, was it like $5 early, or
No, it was well, yeah, it was probably around, the first time I got in was around 35, 40 cents, which was very, very early. And then it was more of a speculative, kind of a very speculative play that was almost indirect, because I wasn't really fully aware at the time of any kind of exchanges or really how to acquire it. It was more through contacts of mine. And then so as time went on, I did get in a lot more heavily. Still not, I say heavily very loosely. It was still, chump change compared to, what people are aping in with now. But I got in when Coinbase first came to fruition, and we were able to then start buying a little bit more directly. And again, I still sold early. It was, bearing in mind, that was kind of pre-cycles, so we didn't really know what to expect. But then I tried to learn fast, and I know I've touched on this before as well, but I tried to circumvent the machine and think outside the box, and ended up investing into a crypto farm in another country I shan't name, a country where electricity was very, very cheap. And so my wife at the time, she owned a warehouse, and so it was a pretty streamlined operation for us to buy a lot of machines from China. A lot of the what are they called now? The Ant 7s or whatever. I forget which machines I actually ended up buying at the time. I'm sure it was like the 6, but we ended up putting quite a bit of money into that crypto farm. And so by the time we ordered the machines, we got it all set up, and we got, a security person, looking after the place. And by the time we actually had that up and running, I think the farm lasted about 6 months. And by that time, the machines had obviously lost a lot of their calculating power. Let's say they were already vastly being outdated, and so it wasn't the opportunity I thought it was, to be honest with you. Obviously, I was very new, and I may have jumped in with both feet prematurely to mining. But it was up and running for 6 months, at which time the government took those machines away from me. Again, completely illegally, but what can you do? And so we didn't really have much time to mine there. But the interesting thing was, and really
just on that, which country, which government?
See, I don't know what the ramifications are of saying this, but
okay.
it was
no worries.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure you could maybe use some common sense there in terms of which economies have been completely dominated by their government in Latin America the last decade or so.
I was in Asia. My head was in Asia for a moment. Okay.
No. Unfortunately not. That probably would have been a lot better for logistics in terms of setting them up and getting them up and running. But no, we had a long, lengthy period of time between purchasing and then assembly. So we'd already lost a lot of key time that I thought was going to be pretty useful to us in terms of setting that up. But a long story short, I mean, we lost a lot of money there in terms of machines. But even if we hadn't lost that money, by the time the machines had lost their effectiveness, and of course I was pretty inexperienced, I didn't know anything about updating them or any of that stuff. And so I figured out that if I had just bought and held with that same money, I would have been, astronomically better off than having gone through my creative route of trying to become a miner. But it was very, very useful experience. And I think that, that served me well. I've certainly learned a lot of hard lessons, let's say, over the cycles, which is why in my channel, I'm trying to have people learn from those examples, because they are expensive, and they are problems and roadblocks that you don't necessarily need to experience yourself now that you have, resources, certainly on YouTube with a lot of people who have already made those mistakes. And so listening to some of that experience can really go a long way.
Definitely. I mean, there's certain mistakes you need to make or you have to make in order to learn and get better and all that. But there's certain stuff like, okay, just you don't have to go through that pain. You can watch someone else. I mean, that's the thing to do these days is before you go do something new, it's like go watch a YouTube video about someone who's did it before and then figure out the baseline. And then so you don't make all the same mistakes over and over and over. It's like your parents teaching you when you grow up how to be human, but it's, people with specialties around the internet doing it. So. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go through the hard lessons. I completely get that as well. And so, it's tough. It's tough to have people remove their emotions from situations, or have people kind of not, take something for granted when, they really should be paying attention and listening. So I totally get that. And I was guilty of that. I still am, to a certain extent. But anything that I'm able to do to help people kind of make better decisions, I'm certainly going to try to do so. And I think that, you asked about my background there, and maybe, the reasoning behind starting my channel, becoming a lot more active in the crypto space publicly. And it's really because I think that in years past, my background knowledge in traditional finance and the VC space, more so traditional finance, really wasn't necessarily as applicable to the crypto space, which is kind of ironic because you would assume that a lot of old traditional finance heads would be the first to adopt crypto, but it hasn't really worked out that way. Certainly in my networks, even now I'm educating, current and even past colleagues of mine that are heavily involved in some of the biggest institutions in the world, but their lack of knowledge and really foresight into the crypto space has been very limited. And so I think that now we're kind of on the precipice of being in a situation where traditional finance is starting to see the real benefits and a path ahead for crypto. I think that now is probably a good time to start marrying some of my past experience, and then bringing a lot of that to the crypto space, because I think that as we start to see more and more traditional finance take more of an interest in crypto, it certainly is going to pay dividends to anyone looking forward, or sorry, I've lost my train of thought there a second, but it's going to pay dividends for anyone who's able to kind of get a glimpse behind the scenes, behind the curtain, as to how they're thinking and what kind of thought process they're going through. And so if I'm able to shed a little bit of light on that, then I really want to do so. And I think that certainly the conversations that I'm having right now with my network, and stop me if I'm rambling a little bit, but with a lot of the action, let's say, I know that I think I was one of the first people to talk about the ETF from BlackRock that was coming or has come to fruition now. It's been tokenized, available outside of the US on Uniswap. That was really an indicator to me that that the wheels are turning now in traditional finance. The landscape's changing a little bit. And these guys are open. And if BlackRock, the mother of all wealth management companies, or fund managers, I should say, with their trillions of dollars under asset management, they're smoothing a path now. And now that path has been shown, and the CEO, Larry Fink, a big figure, a big voice in traditional finance, has outright stated that he believes that the next generation of finance will revolve around an ethos of tokenized, traditional finance vehicles. And so people are paying heed now. And I think the floodgates are opening. And now more than ever, I think it's very, very important to start understanding a lot of that old traditional mindset, because it does differ quite vastly from the crypto mindset, or at least right now, the small money, the retail buying mindsets. And so even though we've seen institutional interest over the past years, I don't think it's anything in comparison to what we're going to see this cycle, and the cycle after, and the cycle after that. And so that was my main motivation, really to as we start seeing a lot of this stuff happening, really to try to be that go-between, and to start, kind of coming at things from both lenses, from both angles, because that's how I approach my portfolio, my investing strategy.
Yeah, I think too, just going back to some of the lessons you can learn, you have to learn yourself too. I think so. This is my second bear. I went through my second bull, working on my third bull, but second bear right now. And yeah, I can tell there's a world of difference, not just after HEX was created, because I was following Richard way before HEX, but after that, being in the ecosystem, going through the bear market, the bull and bear that HEX went through, it just became clear. I was like, this is the ecosystem. This is the one. I don't need anything else. Like, this is the one, and I'm following the best guy out there to do it. So, but I think a lot of people, I guess my point from that is, you don't really know these things until I think you have to go through one. You have to go through one cycle of some sort, and hopefully the bull. It's like everyone's first cycle is always the bull, right? Because that's 99% of people, they're going to get into crypto in the bull. Who's gonna get into crypto?
It's a much larger gravitational pull, right?
Just imagine the number of people who have gotten in. So 2 years, let's say 2020, who got into crypto 2020, 2021, and I don't know. I'm gonna put a number out there, 1 million, 10 million, whatever. And imagine like 1% of those, that number is got in the last 6 months or 1 year. Because why would you, right? Like why, unless you are that keen eye that's looking at a market that sees things that tend to go back up, why would you do that? And that's not 99% of people. That is the definition of the 1%, right? The people who can identify that. So yeah, that's something I hadn't really thought about before, is how many more people are onboarded in the bull versus the bear. And yeah, maybe factor that into some of the, I know some of the onboarding techniques could even be strategized around that too. I have to think more about that, but just came to mind when you said that. Yeah.
I will say too that, part of my draw to this community as well, aside from it, I mean, and I'll be clear too, just to be transparent, that I was made aware of this kind of post PulseChain announcement, let's say. So I was lucky enough to, I guess timing wise, to get into the first sacrifice there, but really made aware and started looking at it and analyzing it at that point, because the idea of a fully vertically, integrated ecosystem had never been done before, and it really spoke volumes to me, along with this narrative of decentralization, a lot of this narrative around, really autonomy and maintaining control of your assets. It's huge. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that, this really is the future of finance. And, traditional folks are seeing this too. And so, as I started becoming aware of this ecosystem, and you start looking at some of the larger macro events that are going on in the world right now, it really seems like the stars are aligning. I mean, there are so many variables that are all coming into perfect positioning right now that it would be very, very difficult for something like this that is so well timed. The unique selling points and the value propositions are so in line with the way the world is kind of going, again, on that macro level. And I'm not even talking about the tokenomics or getting really in the weeds with the very unique selling points in relation to the rest of crypto. But I just think that there's a lot of things going on right now with inflation. I think post-COVID too. Bear in mind, when I first got introduced to HEX and PulseChain, this was post-COVID, and so we have a situation where the Fed has been pumping out so many dollars over the past couple of years, more so than has ever been printed before, that the dollar is losing its value. And so, and this is, I will preface this by saying that I've had conversations with folks that I know in traditional finance since to confirm a lot of this. But my initial thoughts were, looking at a better store of value that, is able to provide dividends on what, the money or the capital that you're banking, but also maintain its value in a much more controllable manner. It spoke to me. And it was something that I couldn't really see out there in the same way. And of course, we're also looking at the litmus test that was HEX's huge parabolic price movement. We can get into that as well, but I think that that's just the beginning. I really do think that looking at how things are shaking out, looking at even aside from PulseChain and PulseX, I think that HEX itself has a lot of runway left in it, and it can only get stronger. And it's going to be more and more appealing to a lot of this big, financial institutional money coming in. That is, it's going to outweigh any of the small retail bags that have been kind of guiding the path so far. We've not really seen any interest from outside institutions yet. So, and I think it's inevitable. And we can go into detail about that too. I actually spoke about it in one of my previous videos. But all of this really kind of painted a picture to me of an ecosystem that has legs, and it has some very strong legs when analyzed the same way that I would analyze a VC company, right?
Yeah, just to, I think this is a good segue for this question, talking about PulseChain strategies. So retail versus the, Wall Street versus institutional, all that. Is there a difference in the strategies you would use to get in and out of PulseChain? You want to talk about that?
There is. I mean, so I'll also say this, that part of within the crypto world, right, we know that traditional money, the old heads, have been hesitant for a number of reasons. It's not all just a lack of understanding. The hesitancy is derived from a number of different areas, really, because it's pulling economic energy from what they know and what they do best. Centralized, ethos has served the man, up to date. And so they're not exactly excited to pull away from that. But when the writing is on the wall, I think it's inevitable that these creative fund managers are going to have to, and are starting to now, create much more creative ways of capitalizing on that decentralization. And so I will say this, when we start seeing the floodgates open, a lot of this traditional money following suit, starting to, not just tokenize their traditional vehicles like, BlackRock has. I'm speaking to people now who are talking about, setting up new asset classes revolving around node operations, revolving around, delegating capital in different creative ways. And so I think that the first stop, when those floodgates open, the first stop is definitely going to be Ethereum, right? We all know that there are certain hedge funds out there that have been buying up Bitcoin. I think we're moving away from that, certainly as the flippening happens, or, is expected to happen. Ethereum is, especially with Shanghai around the corner, it's looking pretty tasty now. Just the fact that it's got a lot of tenure in the market. It's got a lot of interaction and engagement on the chains, most interaction engagement throughout crypto, right? And so the first port of call is definitely going to be Ethereum. And so as we start seeing a lot of these vehicles, these new asset classes, and we don't really know what all of these asset classes are going to be yet. We just know that hedge funds are creative, and even outside, even if it's just the tokenized traditional stuff, there's so much volume coming to the market. That volume is going to have to matriculate through the rest of crypto. And to me, HEX, PulseChain, PulseX it has to grab, a very decent portion of that. And we're in a sweet spot right now with HEX specifically, but even when these new 2 other projects launch, that it doesn't take a lot of capital to move the market. We're going to see some real great price appreciation, hopefully, without necessarily having to compete with an Ethereum. We don't need to. People are saying what's going to happen when PulseChain, PulseX launch, and we have, and Shanghai happens. Is it going to potentially pull economic energy away? It's irrelevant to me, because we're going to see a lot of the big money coming in, and they want to invest in a trusted platform, something that's been around for a long, long time. And while we've had one cycle with HEX that's kind of gone through a litmus test, is now probably a bit more of a proven entity, let's say, or at least a vetted entity in a lot of the right ways. It still pales in comparison to the last, however long it's been with Ethereum being around. And so, either way, Shanghai or not, the real big bags that are going to move the needle, it's not the retail investors looking for the shiny new object anyway, or it's going to be those big institutional bags. And so they're for sure going to come in, and they're going to hit Ethereum first. But we're not competing with Ethereum. We don't have to right now. We're so early in the game. The whole ecosystem is so much in its infancy that even taking a portion of those big bags coming in, and it's going to happen. I've been having those conversations. I've been educating a lot of the folks that I know in my network about this ecosystem, and it's not a tough sell. So I'm not even thinking about this as a replacement or who's stealing what economic energy or market share from the other. I'm thinking of this as, hey, you guys head into Ethereum and pump, crypto as a whole. We're well positioned. We have the selling propositions to pull enough economic energy into this ecosystem, certainly during this first bull chain, that we're going to see some astronomical price performance anyway. So it's always interesting to me when folks talk about, the elephant in the room, right? The Shanghai update that's coming up. And so, and I really don't think it's going to have such a big effect on us. We're not looking to take over Ethereum. We don't need to. Certainly right now, maybe in a couple of cycles time when hopefully the network effect of this ecosystem is such that there's a lot more adoption. It does take then more capital to move the market. The liquidation is not the same. And so, or the liquidity, sorry, is not the same. And then that's a problem. But right now, for the majority of us, this isn't a conversation we need to necessarily be stressing over. I know it was a very sporadic thought process. I'm sorry about that.
No. Just, I think we can perfectly dovetail that into strategy too. Is it retail? Is it just buying tokens and, maybe using a loan product not to sell them, for example? Wink, wink. There's a couple of those coming up, and then, or institutional wise, they're building products around PulseChain. Like, what do you think is going to happen with that?
It's tough to make that to call, because the folks I've been speaking to, and albeit this is a very small sample set of a much larger, financial arena. But these guys, are looking at, firstly, tried and proved, strategies that they can build on. And so, we're like we've kind of mentioned earlier, we're entering into a space where now they realize that crypto is a bit more mature, it's better situated, and it can handle a lot of this new action. And so, node operations is a big thing. I think that when it comes to how we already being in the market, right, should be thinking about what we're doing in relation to anticipation of these big institutional players coming in. And I want to be clear too. It's not just the institutions bags and the fund managers applying their funds, their funds assets. It's also individuals too. I mean, the folks I'm speaking with, a lot of them are excited, and some of them are very, very wealthy people. They'll have millions of dollars that they'll want to put into the market. And for HEX right now, that's price moving, right? And so these guys, the SEC Series kind of 7 regulations that come into effect with a lot of traders where they're not able to have that conflict of interest isn't necessarily as strict, and so there are creative ways to circumvent that. So when I say institutional bags, I'm talking about real high rollers in traditional finance, just from a personal perspective too, and what they're looking to do. So when I ideate about what I want to do, I also want to pay attention to what they have in mind, because they know what their funds are going to be doing too, right? And so I think for our purposes, and for the conservative investor out there, an Ethereum buy and hold, a Uniswap buy and hold makes total sense to me. Maybe even some of the layer 2s there as well. But I think that, to simplify a lot of our ethos going forward, if you're very, very conservative and you don't have a speculative bone in your body, you can probably feel comfortable holding a bag of ETH. And where we may think that ETH could do potentially a 5 or a 10x according to traditional cycles, I think we're in a very different boat now, and that's likely to be a lot higher than most are anticipating. But if you're in this ecosystem, which a lot of folks are, I think this is the chance of a lifetime. And so again, to simplify, and this is, I can't stress this enough. I am going to be following a very risk averse, let's say, in my own mind, strategy. And I think this really comes down to continuing to DCA into HEX and hold, because I think that with the way liquidity is set up on HEX, we have a very, very good chance of seeing some parabolic price movement. I don't know if anyone here has been watching, some of the charts, the TA that someone like Axis Alive has been doing. He breaks this down fantastically, and there's a reason why a lot of people are talking about the very bullish outlook that he has and the way he breaks it down. He makes it very, very digestible. And I've been working with analysts for years, and I will tell you that this guy is one of the best I've seen. And so, if you take into mind, a lot of the information that he's been giving, it's not going to take a lot of capital, a lot of volume to really push the price of HEX. And so just by buying right now and holding and waiting, even up until mainnet launch, past testnet, through a lot of these catalysts that we've seen kind of being announced, and as they start coming to fruition, at the very minimum, I think we're going to hit an all-time high, or we're going to kind of approach close to a previous all-time high. Then a lot of people have it in mind that maybe selling at that point and capitalizing on a certain time where they believe that after the mainnet launch, we could see a price dip, and the economic energy is spread through into PHEX when we get that copy. I also think this is irrelevant for most of us. If we have a long enough time frame and time horizon, and I'm not talking 5-10 years, I'm talking like 2-3 years, 2 years, 1 year even, right after launch. I think that just by buying, holding, having your HEX copy, and then being able to capitalize on price appreciation on both chains, because EHEX is not going anywhere. I think that in itself is going to provide us with a unicorn opportunity. Really, it's a stock split, right? And so what we've seen traditionally, and this is something that Axis touched on too, and I never thought of likening it to a stock split like Tesla saw, but we could see some real parabolic growth there. And so just by holding, I think that a lot of us can really reap the rewards there. Now, with PulseChain and PulseX, I think that out of the gates, it's almost irrelevant too, in terms of when and how a lot of this capital comes in from the big financial guys, because we're still so early that it's not going to take monumental volume to move the price, hopefully, right? We're going to see how that plays out. This is a situation that we haven't really seen before. But I think, relatively speaking, if we come out of the gates, even at certain multiples of what that sacrifice price was, in hindsight, that's going to look like a very tasty, price point to get in at. And so, whether you want to take some of your HEX gains, and I certainly wouldn't suggest selling your whole bag. I think just a percentage of that and put it into, both these new shiny, toys on the market, then I think you can't really go wrong in doing that. You also can't really go wrong in keeping HEX right now. I think we're in a luxury situation where prices and liquidity and all of these beautiful macro events that are going to culminate in a very active and volume-filled crypto world, they're all in a place right now where we're still very, very early. So stressing about some of these avenues, it's a good situation to be in. We have 2 or 3 strategies ahead of us that I don't think anyone can really call on what the best one is, but I think it's not untoward to say that they'll all amount to good things. Right?
Definitely. Yeah, it's hard for me to describe just this year, just the ecosystem, what kind of last year, all the stuff we went through, bloody bear. Now, hard to say. I mean, it doesn't feel like a bear right now. It feels more like a sideways. Maybe it's a whipsaw. Depends on a lot of factors involved. But at least for HEX in this ecosystem with PulseChain launch one day closer, it feels good. I think we deserve this. I think all the people who are still here who didn't FUD themselves out and didn't drum up all the stuff and really just for hanging in there, it feels good. I feel like we got a win already. But I wanted to bring up this tweet, a couple tweets here. One of them is yours as well. But Xerox Coast talking about HEX is still 85% below prior all-time high. If in doubt, zoom out. Let's go PulseChain. And then I think that was really, just kind of for framing wise. And then I'm going to go over to your tweet as well. Accumulating HEX now before the inevitable liquidity squeeze should be a priority for anyone getting in. Soon price will run away. Next potential stop. Ooh, wow. Next up. Wow. Dollars. Yeah. What do you want to riff on that?
Yeah. So I will say this too. It's very interesting to me, and kind of funny when we hear a lot of people on YouTube too, influencers who are, very gung-ho about HEX for all the right reasons, but their expectations of price performance are not really based on logic. In my mind, if you're going to be bullish of what the system and the structure in place is likely to showcase, right? So I think that with HEX, we've, and this is again something that I don't want to keep referencing the guy, but Axis has done very well in outlining, and it really comes down to the liquidity play right now. And so that, ultimately, in a nutshell, it just basically means that HEX is in a situation where it doesn't really take much volume and capital to push the price, up a great amount. And so, looking at how that will actually play out, if sentiment is as we think it will be, as more interest in volume certainly takes place over the next couple of weeks, as we start getting some of these catalysts take place, like, the testnet V3 in itself is going to be pretty powerful, I think. Mainnet announcement. And I'm, even just up until then, there's a very good chance that we hit that all-time high again, because of the fact that there's going to be hopefully a lot of capital coming in, and that liquidity is in a place where it's going to be affected very highly by that capital. And it's, people have been breaking it down recently of how many HEX is actually available on the market right now. And some of us know people on the sidelines. For one thing I didn't mention was, one of the reasons I became interested in HEX was really because I'd witnessed 3 of my closest friends, three close friends that are in my very close circle of friends, let's say. 2 of them made tens of millions of dollars from HEX. One of them made into the hundreds of millions of dollars, which was eye-opening, right? These guys were not, these were relatively average Joes. We all have friends from different walks of life, as I've said before, but I saw this transference of wealth take place before my eyes. Some folks in our circle are very wealthy people who have done very well through traditional means. They've kind of gone through the traditional route there. And so, I saw this happen right out of the gates. And I know that even now, some of those people who are a lot more vetted in crypto, or sorry, they're a lot more tenured in crypto now. Their experience is telling them that they want to wait for a higher point of consolidation within HEX before they start loading in more of their own funds. And it's hard for people to get their head around what that exactly means. Like, to think that someone's waiting for a higher price point to get in, because that it doesn't really make sense to a lot of people, because you have that, you're missing out on the price performance from here to there, right? But it's not that. They're looking for indicators that we're consolidating at higher levels, which, and again, they understand in the grand scheme of things, this isn't necessarily going to matter too much. So as soon as we start getting up to, near 20 cents and seeing that consolidation take place, well, a lot of big money can get in at that point. And I'm saying big money, I'm not talking about institutions in this case. I'm talking about many of the OG hexicans, let's say, who have big bags sat on the sideline, people that I know personally who will wait for that higher price point, so that they know that, we're never going to see these prices again. And the way liquidity works, they'll then dollar cost average in with percentages of their wealth. They won't do it all at once, because they'll price themselves out, but they will dollar cost average in to make sure that, the slippage is all in keeping with the price points they want to get in at. And that in itself is going to push the price ridiculously, let alone a lot of the new folks coming in, a lot of the green candle chasers who are going to realize, as soon as we get into some of those higher price points, when we get to 20, 25, 30, and all of a sudden previous all-time highs looks more attainable, we're going to see a lot more interest then. And I think that, we have a very good opportunity here by, getting in early. Our little buys here and there are not going to move the price, right? Or they're not going to move the price as much. So it's one of the opportunities where the little guy really has the advantage. Big bags coming in, they'll rise price on themselves during that trade. Well, for us coming in with modest purchasing, let's say, and this is a great opportunity to accumulate. That's why, my tweet there is really, I try to keep things digestible for people, and accumulation right now is good on so many different levels. And even though, I've had a million questions coming in that I've tried my best to answer, but folks asking, is it a good time to take profit already? And I'm like, no, it's certainly not. Like, in my opinion, anything could happen and I could be wrong, but I don't think we've got out of the starting blocks yet. And so,
well, can you paint that picture too? Like, what's the other side? What is the, what happens if, another huge macro event, or everyone, PulseChain doesn't launch until 2024, or I guess what are the risks, or what are the things that could tamper down on this rocket ship that we all hope is coming, but hard to say.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of macro events, firstly, that are probably going to have an effect regardless. But if we haven't launched by then, I think they could probably have a bit more of a detrimental effect on price. I don't think, I think the target that we get to is going to remain the same. It's just going to be a prolonged period to get there. But one of those things is any Fed pivoting. As soon as they start lowering interest rates, I think that, a lot of the big money, for instance, a lot of certainly the institutions already in crypto will maybe start selling out of their positions and looking to kind of buy back in when they can leverage much lower rate loans, and then hopefully buy back in at bigger positions at lower price point, right? That happens in the stock market all the time. It's happened in crypto too. But I think that's one thing that if we prolong too long in terms of launching, that's something that could have an impact, and that's probably going to impact Richard Hart's thinking as well, just because he's going to want to time things. He's a pretty smart guy. He understands the effect that a Fed pivot will have, and so I'm assuming that will throw a spoke in the wheel, so to speak, and may even prolong it further, because he's not going to want to launch at the wrong time. Election shenanigans as well. I think that elections are probably going to play. We've all been through the ringer with these elections. We don't know what's going to come out of whose mouth, and how many empty promises are going to kind of make their way into a crypto narrative. So that's probably going to affect things as well. But looking at the ecosystem itself, I think a little bit of a delay. May is perfect, I think, right? So if we are launching in May, I think that we have enough time where we can start really, continuing to accumulate and continuing a long period of time, or a longish period of time in the grand scheme of things, to see continual price appreciation until we get some catalyst announcements, right? So I think that in an ideal world, a May or even a June, July, maybe, a good time frame to keep seeing positive momentum in the HEX price, building up to a crescendo. Then obviously, as we start getting that main net, we'll inevitably launch dip a little bit after that. But then past that point, I think that we start then looking at what we touched on earlier, dollars. I think that that is the next stop. And it's not, again, that liquidity is still going to be at a level where relatively little volume can really drastically push price up. And whether that be on EHEX or PHEX or a mixture between the both, I think it's irrelevant. I think that if you have a mindset where you're keeping both anyway, you're not at risk. You're going to realize a lot of that profit. But I think stopping and delaying for too long, of course, we see, especially the less experienced folks are starting to get a little antsy, or they've been antsy for a while. But that's come with a silver lining too. Perhaps a lot of those weak hands have been kind of shook out because people who did borrow money or were in life situations over time have been forced to find other means to cover that, and sort problems out and financial difficulties out in a different way. And so there is a silver lining to be had there with this delay. But I also think an important thing as well is traditional cycles. We can't dismiss that. So we're coming up to a very, a very expected bull cycle, right? Where people have been, we've, and it's proven time and time again, right, that we count our way back from the halving, and then we start to see the rise. It's all going to plan right now, except this time with this bull cycle, we have the steroid injection of some of these economic macro kind of events and catalysts that are feeding it, and the floodgates opening with traditional money and all of that stuff are only feeding it higher. So I think regardless of if we launch now or if we launch closer to the bull market, that we're still going to get swept up in the wind of that. And so, we could see even steeper price movement if we delay and launch very close to the bull market proper. I've heard people referring to this as bull market spring right now. And it's so true. And I love that as well. I think that it's a great way of saying it, because I've been using the term kind of the start of the bull market and then the bull market in full. But spring is an apt term, especially in this ecosystem. I think we're decorrelated now as well for the most part. And so we'll be dependent on these hype cycles or this hype cycle coming up a great deal for initial price movement. I don't know if I answered your question there, but as usual, I like to just spew my thoughts in the moment.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, you're when you go off on and you start talking about you touch on so many different things. That's what's interesting. So no, you hit a lot of the key points. Not sorry that you took some time to get there, but man, it's like I can tell how you make so many videos. You got so many ideas and so many just good stuff to get out there. So I just want to take a look at chat real quick, and because I know the question UFO asked a long time ago, I want to get to that before chat runs away from me. Let's see. Ben, have you met Tonebase back in Wall Street days?
No, I have not.
There you go. Have not. Okay. I didn't know if that was a reference, like if you talked about that before or not, but there's the negative. And then just going through chat.
Interesting point, though. I'll look him up.
Oh, so you don't know who Tonebase is?
No.
Oh, there's some great Richard streams you should watch.
They're probably
a live stream. Right up
there absolutely probably is, to be honest.
I've been clipping too. I'm doing vintage RH clips for 55 plus weeks. So I got them all already done, clipped, thumbnailed, scheduled out until I got a couple more to do. So it'll probably be April 2024. Every Throwback Thursday, new RH clip, and Tonebase in a few of those. So maybe
I'll check it out. No, I mean the name does ring a bell, but I don't know a lot about him. So before I comment or say anything, I want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence there.
He's not friendly to HEX community. I'll give you that context. But
I'm getting that.
Richard, there's hours and hours and hours of Richard and him debating or having. Actually, they used to have good conversations. People don't know this. They 3 or 4 years ago they had good conversations, and then he did a bunch of stuff, and they had a lot of other conversations which were interesting. So I'll let you.
I will be down a rabbit hole later today.
Tonebase. Let's see. Just going through chat again. What's up, Steve? Steve likes content. Good to see you, man. Want to talk about? We'll get to chat, and then we'll start closing out on PulseX because I want to make sure we cover it because Well, a lot of people love that PulseX. Let's see.
Yeah, the best
If other,
tokenomics I've seen.
that's quite a, maybe we'll skip question. Maybe we'll skip. Damn, I can't talk today. Maybe we'll skip questions and get to PulseX. The fork will double T-share daily payouts for all holders in WN. Interesting. Interesting. What's up, Crypto Truth? Batman says, if RH misses, May window. Yeah, what do you think about this? I mean, let me preface it with saying, I don't know. It's so hard to say if he's timing the market, if he's not, if it's just ready when it's ready. I tend to think that he's not. I tend to think no matter the market condition, he's going to launch because it's been 23 months going on 24, and it's just going to happen. But yeah, what do you think? If first of all, a couple assumptions here. There's a premise, there's a framing, but yeah, what do you think based on this comment generally?
I think for most of us, it's almost irrelevant, right? I mean, purely because we're not going to miss it with HEX, and that has a lot of runway, as we've discussed. But I think the start of the bull market and launching midway through the bull market, for the majority of what we care about, because we're going to be in early regardless of when the product launches, I think we're going to see some real big price movement anyway. I think what we will miss out on probably is some of those bigger kind of financial players getting involved, because they're going to want to see a bit more of, they want to see that the ecosystem come to fruition and then be in existence long enough that they kind of know what they're getting into. But for us in there right now, we're not so dependent on that institutional money anyway. I think that just the retail money alone out of the gates, as we've seen with pretty much every other project out, on the market to date, we're going to see the price movement that a lot of us want to see anyway. So I get it. I mean, we missing that bull run. The earlier, the better. We've all heard it before. Time in the market is better than timing the market, right? And that's proven. I think K4K did a good stream on this months and months ago in terms of just what it means to have, a token or a project in the market for a long time, and just the snowball effect it has, and just that tenure alone lends a little bit of gravitas or some trust factor to many of us. Yes, but I also do think that it won't be the end of the world. We'll still see massive returns, and HEX will capitalize the whole way through.
Let's see if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Kool-Aid. Da da da. I'm telling Death Face. That's I don't want to spoil it for you. I'll let you do your tone based research.
Thank you.
Here's another comment. Let's see. We have a big problem with Reddit posting HEX scam and RHMax scammers driving people away. Well, that's why we're here making content, saying the actual truth of the truth, right? But what do you think, Ben? What
Reddit's great for many things.
Does Reddit matter?
No, honestly, no. And it's great for a lot of things. I use Reddit daily, but I don't use it to get my crypto information, because it's a lot of people running around like headless chickens, just posting whatever their emotions are telling them to. I think that and actually, this scam narrative, I think Reddit may be the only place that's actually going on. I've not really, you tell me, are you still getting confronted with that whole kind of scam mentality? I haven't, maybe because I'm a new channel.
I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to Google, because I think this is interesting. And by the way, Daniel 87 in seed, it's a fair question.
It's a very good point. Yeah, no, I definitely bring that up, and I've seen it too.
Like I did this 100, probably 10 times on stream. When I search for HEX crypto on Google, I don't see, even when I go to the news, I think whoever's did SEO and whoever's been posting articles and all that stuff, I don't see the scam stuff.
HEX looks to have graduated to me.
There's this one that I know that people talked about recently, but most of the time when I'm looking, when you do an outsider perspective, and I did a few streams where I'm like, go down the rabbit hole of HEX, go down the rabbit hole of PulseChain, PulseX, and just try to be like, try to act like a person who doesn't know anything about it. Search for it on the internet, try to go through the threads, go through Reddit, whatever it is. When I type in HEX crypto, I don't see scam stuff. I see Richard winning. I see related projects type stuff. I see all the price charts. I don't see the scam stuff. So now let's do Reddit and see what happens. Opinion, HEX. I don't. Here's scammer legit now. Okay, here's an article, 12 reasons why. why are so many? But most
And how,
of it,
I guess that article's maybe what, 2 years old, a year old, just over.
yeah. There you go. There you
I
go.
think
So
that to
old
me,
articles about scams.
I've heard, and I wasn't a HEX OG by any means, and so I've heard a lot of people talking about that narrative. But to me, it looks like the narrative has somewhat changed. I think the graduation from very, very speculative hot topic that did some crazy things in the last cycle has changed, and it seems to be now one that is based a little bit more in, or a lot more in in trust. I think. I mean, it's passed its litmus test to me. I think it's graduated to being a valid option for more serious investors. I think that's showing, through what we're seeing as messaging surrounding HEX.
Yeah, I think it is definitely changed. So I think one thing that's helped is price go up, and that's the best. I don't know who said this, maybe multiple people, but the best marketing is price go up. It's hard to do in a bear market, but when people see that, they think, oh, must be legit because people are buying it. That's not the test you should use, but it gives people a more dim feels positive rather than dim feels negative.
Anyone watching this stream now, anyone, and I said this earlier, anyone who you have a lot of information out there, but anyone who is aware of this ecosystem right now doesn't have the excuse to not capitalize. And it's ridiculous to think that, because we're still very, very early, and so we are more educated now, or as a community. And so we know, or we have a very big conviction and belief that it's not a scam. To me, it's not even a narrative anymore. But I think that there's such a long runway ahead, and such a prosperous kind of path forward for everyone, that you really have no excuse. You can get a part-time job and start dollar cost averaging in. I know people who have done that. I remember speaking on, I think, my second ever stream about a friend of mine who took out a home equity line of credit. And I'll preface this by saying that he could afford it. It was just an experiment for him. And I'm going to get him on my channel too. But he took out a HELOC for 100K to invest into HEX, and I think the price was around the time was like 2.1. More than tripled his money already. Has no intention of selling anytime, in the next couple of weeks and months. Like he's there, and he's going to ride that experiment out to that guy's. He's going to become a deca millionaire through HEX, because I will say this as well. He does have a traditional financial background, but he's been heavy into crypto for a while, and he sees the writing on the wall. He's got the foresight to start looking ahead. And so anyone, regardless of how little you're DCAing in, it could pay dividends, and it will pay dividends in the future just by being active now and starting to accumulate.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I was clipping one of Richard's streams recently, and I think it was a year or so ago, and he said, somebody asked a question in chat, when rug pull? And his response was very succinct. It's very, very just like simple. It was, what has rug pull ever occurred over 2 years, 3 years? Like, how long does it take? How long does it need to be up 100% uptime, flawless operation, minting millionaires, all this? How long does it take?
He's past that point now. He doesn't need to rug pull.
Exactly. It's a moot point.
There are many, and for anyone watching, there are a lot of ways to leverage the net worth that one has when you reach the point where he has. I mean, we have life insurance policies. We have a lot of avenues that mean that he is never going to not have money. He can maintain that income now in less speculative ways. And so I think now when people say he's in it for the glory, and it sounds so cultish to agree with that. It's something so alien to me to accept that someone is in it to win a Nobel Prize, right? Or whatever target, the astronomical target that someone has. But it seems so. I mean, unless he's a very dumb man, which it doesn't look like he is, he can capitalize, without selling out of his bags. There's no need.
It is an extremely unique situation. Yeah, I don't think I would ever believe anyone else was in it for glory that had this kind of persona, that this kind of situation, this kind of community. He's the one guy. The one guy. I'm like, yep, I believe you.
Yeah,
let's do it.
No, it so true, and I'm sold on him. And I've notoriously been a skeptic at heart at most things. To be honest with you, it's not the most positive world to live in at times. But yeah, I'm sold right now on this ecosystem. And hey, that may change going forward. I doubt it, but I want to make it clear that as soon as the sentiment changes in my own mind, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah. Let's go on to PulseX, and we can wrap up on that. That's a question I want to ask you because I did some streams on PulseX. I've had people on to talk about it. Went through the technicals. I went through a lot of different things before. But what is something, or maybe more than one thing, that nobody is really talking about with PulseX? Like, what is something that they really is just going to blow people out of the water, and they're not even, they're not. It's not even on the radar for most people yet. What can you think of?
I don't know if no one's talking about this. I mean, the thing is, the tokenomics are phenomenal. I mean, we've never seen this buy and burn take form in this way, right? And I think that, kind of as I mentioned before, with certainly my take on the whole situation is, as we start seeing a lot of this economic energy be siphoned away from, or not even siphoned away, just dripped down from probably a heavy interest in Ethereum to PulseChain, and as soon as that narrative takes form of cheap, fast transactions, and it's not the cheapest or the fastest, but it's the most easy other chain, let's say, to synergize well with Ethereum and be kind of a next logical port of call, right? I think that the streamlining that takes place from the development side of things too, for any creative fund managers who are coming out with their own kind of assets and vehicles and whatnot, I think a natural integration to PulseChain makes sense. And so as that starts to happen, PulseX will see a lot of transactions, right? And we've seen before, even with a Uniswap of last cycle, and every cycle we grow tremendously in as a crypto community. And so as we've seen what happened with a Uniswap, for instance, where certain volume equates to certain I guess fees for them themselves, you take those fees and you apply to a buy and burn. Well, people have talked about this before, but we see that economic energy alone, whether anyone buys or anyone kind of trades aside from that, is crazy. That buy and burn, that's and people have said this before, it's a huge buyer entering the market and continuing to buy, and that buyer gets bigger and bigger as more action takes place on the DEX. And so it's certainly been talked about before, but I really do think that the main catalyst to me, and there are catalysts that are coming in from the retail side of things. There definitely will, even without some of the floodgates that are due to open coming in and reaping the rewards by proxy, through PulseChain and PulseX. Even without that, I just think that this is a very it just makes sense on paper to buy a token. It makes sense to hold your PulseX for quite a while, because that snowball effect is really going to come in. And I don't think anyone truly understands like the massive effect that's going to have. We've heard people talking about, well, if it does the same volume as a Uniswap and you get $600,000 a day coming in and buying and burning, I mean, that's a lot when you're at when you're in your infancy. But as that grows, and as the engagement in the DEX grows, which it should, I mean, the narrative there, the community's there, the network effect inherent in that is going to be huge. And so that alone is going to make for a very lucrative hold. So I don't know if there's anything that comes to mind that is not being talked about so much, but I do think that, we can rely on a big impact coming in from some of the bigger bags, from some of the traditional money, like I said before. I mean, it's a big narrative for me. And it's not just because I'm kind of, I have experience in both worlds. It just makes sense. And it does help that I'm having some of these conversations behind the scenes with some asset managers that I know, and just hearing the excitement in their voice when they're talking about, some of the plans for their hedge funds and some of the plans for their investment houses, and how, it's such an exciting opportunity for them to start leveraging crypto in certain HEX and PulseChain and PulseX. It's not a hard sell. So I definitely see us reaping the rewards of that. To what extent during this first cycle, I don't know. The trust factor is certainly going to come into play, and obviously that gravitas and that trust comes with longevity in the market. But I think even out of the gates, even coupled with the excitement that's naturally and organically going to happen within the crypto world, I think we're already getting a lot of buzz, and rightly so. I think that even if we can snatch a little bit of that energy, that in itself is going to be wondrous for the whole ecosystem. And PulseX, coupled with those tokenomics, the buy and burn certainly being the biggest part of that, I think it's a no-brainer to me.
Wakanda said, "What PulseX single-sided staking will be called now? Single-sided minting."
I don't no, I don't think so. I think just staking, right? But that's, for me, that's a no-brainer too. Single side, there's little to no risk on that. I mean, the minute that this launches, I'll be staking mine. It just makes sense to do so. Why would you not? I have no intention of selling during any perceived initial highs during the first couple of days and weeks. So staking definitely makes sense.
Well, if we have V2, so isn't single side, is that V3 only?
I don't know
it
the
was
answer to that.
V3. And well, I mean, so I guess it depends too. Are we doing V2 or are we doing V3? Richard said before, seems like we're sticking with V2, at least for now. I have no idea why he would delay launch any further to switch that up when we got perfectly good decks going on. All the testing that needs to happen. So yeah, I think in the future though, with V3, that could get interesting.
I guess
think
so,
that
yeah.
could be another upgrade later on.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to timing. Which, we were asking earlier about delays. That's probably one of the effects that's going to play into things.
Yeah. I wonder, Richard's next tweet, Richard's next update, is it going to be, are we going to testnet V3, or do you think it's another sleigh of bugs?
You know what? I'd like to think that we do. I think now he's being very careful about the information that he's conveying, right? And I think that he would be already getting out ahead of those potential delays if that was the case. So I get it, but he's said a couple of times that he's not making accurate calls necessarily all the time. So he's always got that to fall back on. But I hope so.
Is he ever going to make an inaccurate call where it happens sooner versus it being inaccurate and it happens later? I keep waiting for it. He's going to be like, okay, we're launching in like 3 weeks estimated. We're so close. And then we launch in like a week and a half. Like, one day.
Yeah.
One day.
Sure. I just noticed as well, Crypto Sloth. I've been watching some of your stuff too, my man. And yeah, real good content there too. We definitely have to set something up at some point.
Sloth is he's the slowest one in the chat. He usually shows up 56 minutes in, but he never fails. He does not fail. He shows up slowly, but he never fails. Yes. Sloth is one of the first people I streamed with.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah, he's a good guy. There you go. Boom.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, great chat, man.
Yeah.
I know you got some stuff to do. I'm gonna work on some stuff as well after this. What do you want to take us out on? Any last words? Anything that any questions, statements, hopium, destruction you want to give us before we leave?
I think we covered a lot. I mean, I would like to leave everyone with hopium because, just given the fact that I've had so many questions, I'm sure you have too, in terms of, what the reaction is to this slight price movement right now. And I think we've just opened the can. I think that we've got a lot of runway to go. And so this is the perfect time to not think emotionally. This is the time where, we have a lot of OGs in the HEX community, especially right now, that, they've already, I think Walrus put it well, when he said that they've already bought houses for their mom. They've already bought their cars and made some of those, purchases. I know people personally in this situation as well. And so when I tell you that they have a much longer time frame in mind now going into this next cycle and the cycle after that, it's all about residuals. It's all about, reaping some of the staking rewards. It's all about kind of just creating wealth, because as we start pulling away from the dollar, and this is a much longer conversation, but with the global reserve currency conversations that are going on with the BRICS countries and some of the economic manipulation that's probably taking place with Russia and China, the dollar's on borrowed time for certainly in terms of where it is right now. And so, I think that currencies in general are on borrowed time, and we're going to start seeing the importance of not counting your profits in dollars, right? Not pulling out in dollars, because they're going to be losing value with inflation, all of that stuff. So maybe something to leave folks with is, for some of us, it's hard to keep an open mind, but the future probably is leaning towards taking your rewards in crypto, having a better store of value. Not commodities operate in the same way. And so, as crypto starts, or certain types of cryptos start kind of veering into more of that commodity and that store of value space, that's only good for the ecosystem, because, like I say, we're vertically integrated. We're checking all those boxes. We have a DEX, we have a chain, and we have a great store of value in HEX. It's only a matter of time until, I know we've got the wallet coming out, but he'll probably keep growing this. And so it's going to be hard to keep a hand on the head and keep us down when this ecosystem is probably going to be the story of the next bull cycle, but continue to be, you know, a fully fledged ecosystem that can't help but attract, you know, a lot of the big money out there.
Yeah, it's between the community building stuff and RH's mission, glory. And yeah, I believe Waller said that too, because he's an excellent communicator. And that guy,
Very amazing.
Gotta have him back on the show too. He's he can just explain concepts so clear, so concise, and it's good to have.
That's something I've got to work on too. When you're in front of the camera, it's a little tougher to speak your mind in a coherent way when you haven't necessarily planned it ahead. But I'd agree with you. I think there are certainly a lot of I think you're very good at this too. There are a lot of very good communicators in our space, and I think that's something that the community itself can only leverage as we go forward. You know, that network effect, due to a lot of smarter people, a lot of really good communicators with a good amount of foresight, being able to lead the way for everyone watching these streams. Like I say, you have no excuse. There's the information's there, and you know, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So, you know, I really hope that everyone is actually listening, and not. I would hate to see a lot of people miss out, especially if they've been present during the early days that we're still in. You know.
Yeah. It's not a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of effort and a lack of willpower and just wanting to get it. Because you get this community, especially, so many streams, so much content, so many videos. I mean, you're putting out tons of content. I think clearly articulating a lot of your ideas and thoughts in the space. I'm trying my best as well. And no excuse, everyone. No excuse to find the information you need to make the decisions that are going to be, you know, could be good decisions, could be bad decisions, but they're yours, and the information is there for you to make them. So,
totally agree.
Yep. Pleasure to have you, man. Pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And everyone else, I may be streaming in 2 or 3 hours. We'll see. I need to get some food first and maybe another coffee or so. But you wore me out, Ben. Wore me out, man. Good conversation.
Me too. But thanks to everyone for watching this. And yeah, I'm.
Good.
Let's do it again, man.
Tell them your social media stuff, Twitter, YouTube. Where can people find
you? Follow me at Ben Kayge. It is literally my name, so it's not Kayge or Kayge. It's Kayge. But
Makes
follow me. I try to be active
Kayge
on Twitter. But my channel too. You know, everyone, if you want to subscribe to my channel, I'm doing my best to marry kind of traditional finance, as I say, with crypto, and keep you abreast of some of the conversations that I'm having with certainly with my network. So hopefully it's useful and I'm providing value. Love the comments I've had so far, and it's always great to converse with folks like yourself too, where, you know, it's great to just talk about this stuff in real time because the landscape changes. And so hopefully this is the first of many, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's, you know, I don't plan on stopping streaming anytime soon. I don't see you not producing content anytime soon. We're at the precipice. As you mentioned earlier, we could be in the crypto, the bull spring. Is that what you said? Bull spring?
Yeah, I think that was an Axis Alive label, but it's worked, and it was a fan. And he's another great communicator. But yeah, really accurately describes kind of where things are right now. So that's me. I'm in accumulation mode right now, and I don't think we should be scared away from a little bit of price action. I think there's only good things to come.
Sounds good to me, everyone. May see you in a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see. Scivive and 5555. See you later.